Hey everyone, welcome back to Bear It In Mind. What if I told you that you could study human behaviour without running a single experiment, conducting an interview, or even talking to anyone at all? No participants, no ethical forms, no awkward silences. In this video, we're covering content analysis, a research method that lets psychologists study people indirectly through the things they create, such as social media posts, TV adverts, newspapers, and speeches. We'll look at how it works, how to conduct one, a real study that used it, and the key strengths and limitations you need for the exam. This video is part of a full research methods masterclass, a course covering everything you need to know from experiments all the way through to stats tests. If you're interested, there's a link in the description. But for now, let's explore content analysis. So content analysis is a type of observational research, but instead of watching people directly, you study them indirectly through the things they create or produce, such as spoken interactions, like conversations, speeches and interviews, or written communication like emails, text messages and letters, and also media such as children's books, magazines, TV adverts, films and social media posts. When we say behaviour is observed indirectly, it means you're not watching the person live. Instead, you're looking at visual, written or verbal material that captures their behaviour or communication after the fact. By analysing this secondary data, researchers can explore behaviours or messages without directly interacting with participants. For example, back when I was doing my A-Levels, in my English language class, one of my friends for their coursework decided to analyse the writings on gravestones over different decades to see how the use of language changed over time. This was a content analysis. They were analysing the written content on the gravestones, and obviously they weren't observing any people directly because those people were no longer around anymore. So what's the goal of content analysis? Well, content analysis is about turning large amounts of qualitative data into quantitative data that can be measured and analysed. For example, a researcher might count how many times positive words appear in news articles. This helps to summarise and describe communication systematically, making it easier to spot patterns and draw conclusions. So, how do you conduct a content analysis? The process is similar to an observation, but applied to secondary data like social media posts. Let's imagine we're studying Instagram posts from year 13 students to see how they spend their time. Firstly, we would decide what content to observe. Will you analyse every post in a week or just pick a sample? Will you focus on posts at specific times like evenings or weekends? Then secondly, just like an observation, you would define clear behavioural categories. You would break down the posts into categories that you can reliably count. For year 13 students, categories could include revision or studying, so photos of notes, revision apps and textbooks. Or exercising and sport, such as gym selfies, playing football or going running. Or eating and food posts like snacks and cooking or going to coffee shops. Or hobbies or creative projects such as music, art or gaming. Or mental health and mood posts such as quotes or diary posts or venting posts. The key is to have categories that are mutually exclusive and don't overlap with one another and are clearly defined, so everyone coding the posts would classify them the same way. And then thirdly, you'd code your data. So you'd do quantitative coding. You'd count how many posts appear in each category. For example, over a week of posts, maybe 12 are about revision, 8 are about socialising, 5 are about exercise and so on. And once coded, you can look for patterns. Maybe most posts are about studying during exam season or more about friends at the weekend. In summary, by coding Instagram posts, researchers can see what year 13 students are actually doing without ever asking them directly. It turns everyday social media content into numbers and patterns that tell a story about behaviour and priorities. Let's look at a real psychology study that used content analysis to explore an important question about media and gender. Furnham and Farragher wanted to find out whether TV adverts show men and women in different roles. Specifically, are women shown in more domestic roles and men in more professional roles? So they collected a set of TV adverts that were being broadcast at the time, similar to how we might choose John Lewis Christmas adverts to analyse. They then decided to focus on characters within the adverts. Every time a man or woman appeared, they recorded information about that character's role. So for their coding system, they created clear categories to organise their observations. When the character appeared, were they in a domestic role, like cleaning or childcare, or were they in a professional role, like being a doctor or a businessman? They also recorded the product type that was advertised. Was it a household product or a luxury product or something else? And they also recorded whether the voiceover of the advert was male or female. Here they had turned qualitative data into quantitative data to draw conclusions about the roles of males and females in TV adverts. Now let's consider the strengths and limitations of a content analysis. A strength of a content analysis is its ecological validity. It uses real-life materials like TikTok videos, Instagram posts or blogs, so it studies behaviour as it actually happens online. Another strength is to do with ethical issues. You're analysing existing content, so there's no need to interact directly with people, especially when using public posts, because it avoids privacy issues and informed consent. However, the limitation of a content analysis is observer bias and subjectivity. Different researchers might see the same video or post and interpret it in very different ways. This is because the content is usually taken out of its original context. Because of this, researchers might assume opinions or motivations behind what was said or shown that the creator never intended. So we've just seen how content analysis lets us study behaviour indirectly by analysing existing materials like videos, texts and media posts. But what if we want to understand people's thoughts, feelings and attitudes directly, things that aren't always visible in what they create or share? That's where self-reports come in. We cover all of that and more in the Research Methods Masterclass, including exam question walkthroughs and interactive testing, so you can check your understanding. See the link in the description if you're interested. Or if you want to learn about another part of research methods, click the video on the screen now. I hope you enjoyed this video and we'll see you in the next one.